Welkom by Ons Goue Jare met die uwe Andre Walters. Ons Goue Jare is 'n gereelde weeklikse halfuur hier op die gunsteling radiostasie vir ouer mense en hulle kinders en kleinkinders, sodat hulle ook kan verstaan wat die uitdagings is van ouer word. Ja, dis weer tyd om 'n bietjie mekaar te kom en te gesels oor belangrike dinge vir ons ouer mense. In ons goed om te weet geloof vandag gaan ek ons voorstel aan Derek Labner van die MAID Foundation. MAID staan vir Make an Immediate Difference en hulle is verstommend die werk wat hulle in Suid Afrika doen. En ek dink dit is baie interessant wees om met hulle te gesels. Ons onderhoud van die week is ons besig om te praat met David Gresham. Onthou vir David Gresham. Hy het uitgesaai op LM Radio en toe op Springbok Radio. En toe skielik uit die bloute uit het hy sy eie platemaatskappy begin met sy eie etiket, die David Gresham platemaatskappy. Ons gesels daaroor onder andere vandag. In die nostalgie geloof Gracie Fields met Wish Me Luck As You Wave Me Goodbye. Dis ietsie wat sy in die Tweede Wêreldoorlog vroeg in die Tweede Wêreldoorlog gesing het. En dit was vir troepe wat vertrek, wat hulle families agterlaat om te gaan beklei in die Tweede Wêreldoorlog. En dis waar hierdie lied vandaan kom, Wish Me Luck As You Wave Me Goodbye. Dan Boererate soos altyd met Francois Stemmet. It is with great pleasure that we welcome Derek Labner of the MAID Foundation, Make an Immediate Difference Foundation. Hi there, Derek.
Hi, Andre. Nice to talk to you.
Derek, it's really wonderful to be able to announce to our listeners that the MAID Foundation is supporting our golden years for a whole month of programming, which is 4 episodes. And I want to thank you again for making an immediate difference in the lives of the 400,000 people, older people, listening to our golden years.
No, you're welcome. It's a great pleasure.
Could you give us some background to the MAID Foundation?
Sure. So about 13 years ago, my parents asked me to take over their sort of charitable program or charitable giving, which is fairly random. And my father was getting quite frustrated that the money that he was giving to various charities was either not being spent in any sort of rational way, or it was kept in a bank account. And he basically was getting quite frustrated that lots of people were asking but not really following up once he had given the money. So he asked me to take it over and sort of run it in a more formal way. And that's really how it started. And really with the main brief is that we support organizations and individuals with a brief that they sort of need to spend the money immediately, in inverted commas, that they don't put it in the bank account and it sits there for months on end. So that's really where we are, yeah.
So, would you verbalize your mission and vision for us?
Yeah, so the vision is to, what we see is there's a huge spectrum of charitable donations all the way from capacity building and long-term projects to what we do on the other side, which is really immediate deployment if we like. So, yeah. For example, if a school is looking to upgrade their art class or a sports equipment or something like that, we'll give them the funds to do that. And really all we ask in return is that they spend the money on exactly that, and that they document it in photographs and send it back to me. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
We don't ask for long reports and proposals and all that sort of stuff. And really that's kind of what we do and we have done in the last 13 years across a wide range of different organizations from HIV, orphans, to music, to sport, to communities, to schools, hospitals, you name it.
Yes. Making an immediate difference. What an evocative name that is, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't get. I get when I talk to people, a lot of people sort of say, the criticism of it is that it's not sustainable, that it's not long term. You're not putting down sustainable programs. And my answer to that is, without people in organizations that are running NGOs and without their recipients seeing actual real-time effect of having stuff done, long-term programs don't really matter. It's in an NGO where you're not doing it for profit, I believe, and this is kind of a personal belief, that if you don't see stuff happening, people get very concerned and very sort of depressed, and I see that a lot. So when I go visit the programs that we support, you see the energy because stuff is actually happening, and it actually, what they ask for they get, rather than waiting for stuff. And as I say, it's not to everybody's taste by any stretch, and we certainly don't pretend to be solving every problem. But I think it's a nice way of deploying funds, and from my folks' point of view, it's extremely satisfying because they see that the money's going, to good use.
Yes. I can imagine it's also a way of empowering organizations to become self-sustaining.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, obviously, and especially now, as you know, South Africa's in a very parlous state in terms of the economy, and NGOs are battling and struggling really to make ends meet. So the money that we deploy is really critical in a lot of organizations. We tend to choose smaller organizations, so we don't go for the big ones who we feel it's difficult to make an immediate difference, if you like. So we sort of skew it towards smaller organizations that really rely on smaller amounts of money, if you like, to survive. And yes, for me, what's been interesting over the years is to see the people who run these organizations and the staff in the organizations. It gives them a great motivation to keep carrying on, and without them, the organization obviously falls apart. So, and then the recipients, don't get whatever the service that they're requiring. So that's kind of a role that we see developing further, where we are really empowering, the people who run the organizations, and they're critical. And as you know, they tend to be. They're not necessarily elderly people, but people who may be retired or have a bit more time on their hands, who can volunteer, and that's a critical sector of the population in South Africa.
Ons gesels met Dirk Labner van die MAID Stigting. MAID staan vir Make an Immediate Difference. Ons gesels volgende week verder met hom. En hier in die nostalgiegleuf is Gracie Fields met Wish Me Luck as You Wave Me Goodbye.
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Cheerio, here I go on my way. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye. Not a tear, but a cheer, make it gay. Give me a smile I can keep all the while in my heart while I'm away. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye.
Wish me luck as you
again, you and I. Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye.
Wish me luck as you wave me goodbye.
Dit was Gracie Fields, Wish Me Luck As You Wave Me Goodbye. En nou is dit tyd vir ons onderhoud van die week.
A great friend and colleague, over many years standing, is joining us on our golden years. David Gresham, welcome, and how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Andre. It was so great to touch base with you again after all these years when I think of the magnificent time that we all had, and we did, even with the moans and groans of the upper echelon sometimes. We had a great time, especially on my side at Springbok Radio.
Yeah, you started, you also went to LM Radio.
Well, yes, I started broadcasting with LM Radio, Lorenzo Marx Radio, which incidentally they've brought back on the air from Mozambique and have received a license for a broadcast transmitter in South Africa. It's the old 702.
How the wheel turns, David?
Yeah, so we started there. I was in Lorenzo Marx, living in LM for 2.5 years with John Burks, the late Darrell Euster, David Davies.
Robin Alexander.
And Robbie. Well, Robin had already left, and Barry O'Donoghue, the late Barry O'D, was leaving Springbok Radio to join Lorenzo Marx Radio, and I was the one that took over his programs on Springbok Radio. It was a strange time at that time, you know. So it was one of those things that happened at that time, and simultaneously I was offered a position as PRO at World Record Company, which was a subsidiary of Teal, and it helped facilitate the difference in income necessary for us to make a living. Yeah.
As a freelancer, it was very hard to make ends meet sometimes, huh?
It was difficult in that I think when you go back, the fees were really minimalistic, and it was, unfortunately, that's what it was at the time. I think for all of us. Yeah. And I had got married, and the kids were on its way, and I decided in taking this position as a PRO and A&R, artist and repertoire manager at World Record Company. However, I guess forcibly it taught me a lot about the industry as I was composing. Yes. And wanted the opportunity of recording or releasing or getting my music heard.
You know, David, when you and I first met, I was running Radio Highveld, well, the regional services. And I saw this young guy with such a talented and enthusiastic young guy. And I thought, wow, you know, that's what broadcasting is about, is throwing your heart into it. And that's when we first met, I think.
Yeah, it was a manic time because I was given the extra program on Highveld, Radio Highveld at the time, and I had to do Hoeveld Treffers. Yeah. And my being brought up in Swaziland and a lack of Afrikaans knowledge, I learned as quickly as possible when I came back to South Africa from Lorenzo Marx.
I think Hein Turin was the man that gave you that job.
Yes, and I remember the station doing the program, and some years later, I was doing the morning show on the weekend and Springbok Radio. It was fun, and we were all. It was strange, but for some reason we all got on so well. I mean, we made it our business to do the right thing and to get on well. and not clash with the rules and regulations, which were, as you know, very difficult to follow. There were lots of things we weren't allowed to say and do, and one could make an error on air, but we really were cautious at the time.
Yeah, and also at the time, South Africa had a secrecy syndrome. You know, there were things. It was. I remember wanting to interview Andre P. Brink, who at that time was very outspoken against the government, the then government. And I was not told not to interview him. I just got a verbal message from my boss who said that the Director General would prefer it if you don't interview Andre P. Brink.
Well, that was the subtle message everyone got. I remember when I came back from America, and America Pop Radio had commenced with a thing called Boss Radio, being you're the boss of all the radio stations.
Yeah.
And I brought that back and introduced Springbok SBOK Boss Radio. And I will never forget being requested to meet the powers that be and said, how come I'm starting to promote Boss, which was then Bureau of State Security? And I said, I have nothing to do with anything remotely close to politics. I've been taping the American shows, and I'm bringing the essence of new words and ideas into South Africa for pop radio. And eventually I got a message saying, no, it's fine. We understand what you're doing, because certainly I had nothing to do with any of the politics of the day. And we weren't, and Boss Radio was a big thing in America when I came back at that time. I think it was late 70s, 80s, and I changed my program to SBOK Boss Radio on Springbok Radio. But we had such a lot of fun. I mean, we got over all those humps because my life was all about music, writing music, working with musicians, and that's what I really enjoyed. And then, when I think back, the company, my record company, my little company, is 45 years young in July this year, 2017.
Really, congratulations. I remember this young chap, this young David Gresham, suddenly opening up his own record label. I thought, David, are you crazy?
Well, I was. And everybody had heard that I had started producing and writing, and they said, that's okay, but to open up your own label, you're going to use up all your financial resources.
Yeah.
And you have a family now. And I thought, you know what, I got to take this chance.
Yeah.
And I did. And at the time, I was blessed. At EMI, there was a guy called Clive Calder who eventually... I
remember Clive, yes.
He went on to start Zomba and Jive Records, and about 10 years ago, he sold to BMG for nearly $3 billion. Wow. And he was the most successful of the South African entrepreneurs. And also with me was a young, wonderfully talented producer called Robert John Matlanga. And he went on to join Clive and went on to produce Bryan Adams, AC/DC, Foreigner, Def Leppard. He married Shania Twain, the country singer, for a while, but they split up. And he went on to great success. And it's a wonderful story for South African talent.
Yeah. I think that South Africa has got the most astonishing talent. And our biggest challenge is to get it on the world stage.
Yes, we're succeeding. I've noticed that good and bad came from the internet, or comes from the internet. Most people don't want to pay for music anymore, but there's still an opportunity of getting your music heard worldwide. All our music now is available, all South African music is available worldwide.
Yeah.
So we find that we're able to produce something in South Africa, put it onto YouTube, Apple, iTunes, and we do sell internationally. We're successful with some of our artists in Germany, and we're able to hear artists that we can work with in South Africa. And I think that has given us great motion in this industry.
Yeah, I was wondering about artists with their music on YouTube that people can just download.
Well, the freedom of downloading isn't the greatest thing in the world because most people think music should be free, which we disagree with because one has to take into account the work the musicians do. They go in rental of studios. Everybody has to make a living, get out there, get their music heard. And only when these songs, I use the word songs or pieces of music are heard and become popular, do they get live work. Otherwise, nobody will go and see them perform live.
Yeah.
And it's a tough situation, whereas in our day, you were forced to go and buy, you had no alternative. You bought a vinyl, and then if you didn't want the vinyl later on, you bought a CD.
Yeah.
And then came the internet, as you realize.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when I think back, just to help our older listeners to remember, you took over the SA Top 20, the South African official hit parade, on Friday nights.
Correct. I took it over from someone who I met again on the internet, Ronnie Wilson.
Yes.
And Ronnie Wilson was made the head in 74, 75 when we had TV test programs.
Yes.
Ronnie Wilson was made head of entertainment, if you recall.
I remember. And
Ronnie had enjoyed my top 20. He really liked the way I presented it. We met one day in the passages of SABC, and he said, "Oh, I like your top 20." I said, "Do you think we can convert that into a TV program like Top of the Pops?"
Yeah, Pop Shop.
And he said, "Yeah," and he actually said to me, "You've given me food for thought." And I got a call out of the blue from Ronnie saying, "We have for 6 weeks a 15 or 12 and a half minute gap after, what was it, pot roast and biltong, or biltong
Yes.
and pot roast. It wasn't long enough. And would you like to do the show for 6 weeks?" And we did Pop Shop, as you recall.
Yes.
And Pop Shop landed an extended period for the 2.5 years I presented it. And then it was really enough. I think there was a part of me that said, it's getting silly and overexposed. And I left the program, I can't remember, was Ian Warren?
Easy Beat.
Correct. Then I had a hiatus for a year. Mm-hmm. And then took on Easy Beat, and you remember that, and that was terrific because there we launched so many middle-of-the-road artists. It was fantastic.
Volgende week gesels ons verder met David Gresham. Boererate met Francois Stemmet.
Andre, vandag wil ek praat oor 'n lekker ding. Ons het twee programme gelede, dink ek, het ons gepraat oor cranberry, wat so lekker is. Maar hierdie is net so 'n lekker ding. Ja. En dis chamomile. Ja, kamille tee. Ja, ons praat van kamille tee. Man, dis 'n wonderlike ding. Ons het die gewoonte om voor ons gaan slaap 'n kruie tee te drink.
Ja.
Nou, daar's baie kruie tee wat jy kan drink. Want daar's baie van hulle wat hierdie properties, wat is dit? Eienskappe het. Maar ons het 'n buurman gehad. Ons bly in 'n kompleks, so die huise is baie na aan mekaar.
Ja.
Nou net oor die hoek van ons af, het ons 'n buurman gehad, en as hulle by ons kuier, dan sê hulle Tisha vir hulle later aan, wat van 'n kamilleteetjie? Dan sê hy, nee, dankie. Hy wil nie chamomile tee nie, want dan slaap hy voor hy by die huis kom. En dis waar. Ek het toe natuurlik gaan lees na aanleiding van wat hy gesê het, gaan oplees, en gedink aan my eie ondervinding. Chamomile laat jou slaap. Dis kalmerend. Dis anti-inflammatories. Dit werk vir stres en algemene spanning. Nou as jy jou spanning beheer, dan slaap jy. Het neem hoofpyn weg, en dis 'n antiseptikum.
Sjoe.
Nou, dis nou al genoeg rede om chamomile tee te drink, maar boonop is dit heerlik. Ons maak die tee en dan gooi ons net so 'n mespuntjie stevia in. Nou stevia is mos 'n natuurlike plant wat jy kan hom in jou tuin plant.
'n versoetmiddel.
En sy versoeting is, ek dink hulle het gesê 100 keer.
Ja, jy het al gepraat oor stevia.
Ja, korrek. 100 keer so jy weet so sterk as suiker. Ja. Maar ek noem dit nou omdat 'n mens dit kan gebruik saam met jou chamomile tee.
Ja.
Dan neem jy nie suiker in nie. Chamomile tee word gebruik vir slaaploosheid en vir soeibrand en vir hiperaktiewe kinders. Hiperaktiewe kinders, kan jy dit glo?
Ja.
En vir winderigheid en vir koliek. Maar my bottom line bly steeds, dis vrek lekker. Ja, kyk, jy kan dit in enige supermark koop. Kyk by die teerakke.
Ja.
Jy kry hom en daar is ook 'n interessante produk van chamomile. Dis 'n chamomile en rooibos tee mengsel.
Ja.
Dis net so lekker.
Man, ek drink eerder medisyne voor ek rooibos drink.
Nee, rooibos is daarom vir my 'n baie lekker ding. Man, kom ons sê nou maar net, ek is mal oor tee. Veral krye tee.
Ja. Maar ons is nie almal dieselfde nie, dank die Vader.
Ja. Dit is ook waar, né?
Ja.
So, jy koop hom in 'n teesakkie vorm.
Ja.
Jy drink hom soveel kere as wat jy wil.
Ja.
En jy geniet die lewe.
Ja. Jy maak dit saak as jy naby in jou bed is as jy dit gedrink het.
Ja, soos my buurman gesê het, hy drink dit nie want dan slaap hy voor hy by die huis kom. Dit is nogal 'n probleem.
Volgende week
brandnetels, stinging nettle.
Boererate is altyd baie interessant om na te luister. En hier is waar ons op die internet gevind kan word as jy na vorige episodes luister. Dit is www.facebook.com/vorentoe_streep en dan een woord klein lettertjies Ons Goue Jare. Klik daarop en kom deur na ons toe. Intussen is dit 'n kwessie van hou kop, hou koers en hou uit.